you could exceed your wildest capacities. And you'll wake up in 20 years and you look back on it and be like, oh my God, this was amazing, right? And so, but to know that it fundamentally ties down to A to B, do the hard thing well, do it so well that it becomes second nature. Like there's a recipe in there it's like making good cereal for breakfast, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Let me ask this then. If someone had to ask, as like a Green Beret or just special forces in general, if they said, how can I solve any problem? So if I have a problem in front of me, what would be the approach to solving the problem? Obviously, you can keep it as high level as you want, but just kind of like a general, this is the structure of how we approach it.
No, this is good. I heard this at a graduation, like a buddy's graduation later in my career that I wish I heard up front when I was graduating to be a Green Beret. Instead, there was some general that spoke for like an hour at the graduation and like everybody fell asleep. Had he just compressed his statements to what this colonel said, like about 15 years into my career. And he said, congratulations, the Army has evaluated you and said that you are fully capable of solving complex problems, right? For me, primarily in the opening half of my career, it was medical, right? Medical and tactical. And the colonel goes on to say, it's like, you will be put in situations, whether you're asked to be put into them or you find yourself in them or you just default into them, where those skills are going to allow you to solve the problem, right? Easy to use a medical analogy. And then he said, but there will be times where you'll be completely incapable of solving that problem. You'll be the only person there, but you're going to fail. And the Army didn't train you really to fail, evaluated to see if you're good enough to get there. And so the colonel goes on to say, he's like, you're going to have to find grace because 9 times out of 10, you're going to solve that problem beautifully, right? But there's be 1 time out of 10, you are going to be either the wrong person for the job, the problem's too big, you're going to make the wrong call. And when that happens, because it's going to happen, it happened in my career, it's happened in everybody's career, you're going to have to give yourself grace. You're going to have to ask for forgiveness. And you're going to say, yeah, I tried to do the right thing. And in the process of trying to do the right thing, something fell apart or the mission failed or XYZ. And I think I can fix it if you give me the chance to fix it or if I give myself the chance to move past this, point of, getting it wrong, right? Because it's easy to say, how do you get it right, right? You get it right by doing A to B. You get it right by doing the reps 100 times and 1,000 times. And then you get put in a situation that, at least in my specific career field, I can only bring a gun and a med bag, right, in that time and frame. If I need more medicine than what's in my med bag, then I'm calling for backup, right? But that doesn't mean I can solve the problem in the immediacy. And so I would say it's 2-part to that question is you're going to be put in situations that you can solve, and then you're going to have to find ways to solve the problems that you can't solve, which is usually a deep forgiveness of self and accepting that you were put in a situation beyond your capacity and not beating yourself up. And that's a speech, I'm paraphrasing that speech, but that's the speech I wish I'd heard at the beginning of my career instead of like 15 years in.
So I guess circling back with retrograde, we were kind of discussing some of the stuff offline as well, like the idea of like cognitive dissonance and just how people weren't capable of seeing what was really kind of happening at the time, both at the public level, but even, those around you at the time. So can you break down just kind of situationally what the fall actually looked like as being someone that's boots on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, for full clarity, we were the last Special Forces team out of Helmand, Afghanistan, in the final weeks, actually. And, right, so I'm experiencing cognitive dissonance, right? The disconnect between reality and whatnot, because not only is like the biggest dramatic event in, my recent world history happening, like in front of the whole team's eyes, and we're trying to keep the flood back. It's sort of like standing on the beach with like a broom and trying to hold back a tsunami. Mm-hmm. You're like, that's what you felt like, or what we felt like. And we're like, we'll stand here because this is our mission. But like, holy shit, this is going to be rough because 100 miles to the west was Iran, 100 miles to the south was Pakistan, 30 miles to the north was Musakala, which is Taliban HQ. And we're at the crossroads of all this. And then we're literally a few miles away from the major, the Kajaki River basin, which is effectively every farm there grows heroin to sell into the trade. So we're in it. We're in the hornet's nest, and so we're sitting around and basically, and to add to that layer is you have a National Geographic team filming you and saying, "Hey, you remember we were talking about earlier? You don't ask the NBA player how they feel about the game in the middle of their throw, right?"
Yep.
So we had a National Geographic team saying, "Hey, how do you feel about this right now?" And you're like, "I don't want to think about this right now at all. My feelings, because I have work to do. I got to get A to B, A to B, A to B, and I got to do that 10,000 times right now." And so everybody was experiencing their own version of cognitive dissonance, right? Some couldn't believe it. Some could. I mean, even in Retrograde, Sami Sadat is saying like, "No, the Americans will never leave. They've invested 20 years into this, right? And then we leave." Right. And so like it's in everybody's impossible option radar. And for us, because we're the most isolated team in the region, most hostile. I mean, the generals would fly in weekly and be like, "Hey, how are you guys? Have you called your family and told them you love them?" We're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" We're like, "Why?" Like, it's a big deal when a general tells you, "Call your family, tell them you love them." And finally we dug into it. They're like, "Yeah, because generals they're saying like, if the administration doesn't pull out, you guys are going to get obliterated because Iran's going to want a piece of you, Pakistan's going to want a piece of you, the local Taliban, and anybody else. They're just going to want to take care of you and wipe you off the map." And they're like, "So you're going to have every air asset in the world, but hopefully we can get you there or get it there to you in time." So we're effectively known as like the Little Alamo, and we only had two options: either we're going to pull out or we're going to fight to the death. Us and a merry band of men. And, as Green Berets, you sign up for this, right? And you embrace the mentality, but you're like, "Oh, I'm going to do my job, but it doesn't mean I'm going to like it, but I'm going to do my job." And so everybody had an extra grenade on them, extra pack of, extra tourniquet, everything was a little bit extra. And so I'm analyzing this as they're saying, "Hey, you're going to be the Little Alamo. Good luck." And I was like, "Okay, what are they most likely going to do? They're going to most likely do indirect or an insider threat. We can handle the insider threat, but the indirect, right? So like a 120 millimeter mortar round, it's like this wide, like this big, and you got to lift it like you're lifting a little baby." And so I'm sitting there. I'm like, "Yeah." So we're living in Connex hooches, and all our buildings are, a quarter inch, like an eighth of an inch thick sheet metal. And I'm starting to look around. I'm like, what happens when a mortar round hits a Connex, right? Well, like, has that ever actually been experimented on? And the answer is no. And so I started laughing. I'm like, okay, well, if this is our most likely threat, we should probably prevent or plan against this because we're all packed in like sardines. The last thing we want to do is be easy to pick up, during the autopsy because, we're all just obliterated. So, mind you, this base, Antonik, used to be a British base. There used to be tens of thousands of troops on here. A water processing center. I mean, it was massive. But now you've just got like a little footprint, right? Like literally less than a city block where the entire city has now been abandoned. It feels like New York City in some sort of apocalyptic movie, right? These giant T-walls that weigh like 20 tons and took $10,000s in cranes to put in place.